he had this glare on his eye. He was like so laser focused on me and looking at me through the window. I mean, it was like I'm thinking he was thinking at the time, what are you doing?
Real Talk with Star Scorpio, Season 8. This is part 2 of The Will to Live with my guest, Arthur Sercan. In our first podcast, we got to learn about Art, where he grew up, his upbringing, his jobs, and he shared some amazing stories. At the end of the podcast, Arthur said something, and I quote, "The year of 2021 will be a year that we just never forget." Arthur, welcome to Real Talk with Star Scorpio. How you doing today?
Peter, thank you for having me on the show once again.
It's part 2, brother. Um, Art, this is your COVID story, and it's going to be told by yourself and your wife, Jenny. Jenny, welcome to Real Talk with Star Scorpio. How you doing today?
I'm good, Peter. Thank you so much for having me and giving me this platform to speak with you.
Yes, I appreciate you coming out. So let my audience know who you are.
I'm Jenny Spanos-Sercan, and I am the wife of Arthur Sercan, married for 21 years and 31 years together.
Wow, amazing.
Long time.
Mhm. All right, Jenny, we're here for a reason. So take me back to that day when Arthur wasn't feeling well.
It was September, long weekend, and we were up north at the cottage. I had a nice weekend there, came back, went to a Greek festival, enjoyed that. And that was on the Monday of the long weekend. And then Tuesday, it just kind of hit him like a ton of bricks. Woke up feeling really, really sick. Just like sick feeling, like body aches and stuff like that. But we just kind of thought it was like a common cold. Then on the next day, I got sick, which was the Wednesday, which was the first day of kids starting school. And then by Friday, the kids were sick. So now the whole family was sick during that week of first day of school. So that was kind of like a tough time thinking like, what's going on here? Where do we catch this cold? And Art was just getting worse and worse though. Whereas for the kids and I, it was just a common cold, but he kept getting worse and worse as the week went on.
And then September 10th. September 10th is when I felt I was having abdominal pains is what I thought it was.
Mm.
And I'm not one to just get up and go to a hospital. I'm not that guy that just runs to the hospital. I thought I could sleep it off, wake up in the morning, it'll be good. Obviously, we all knew what COVID was at that time, but that's not the first thing that goes through your mind. You don't think it's COVID. I just thought it was a stomach ache,
Mhm.
but it wasn't even a stomach ache at that time. It was higher up, so it was closer to the lungs. Um, as I don't know if everybody knows, but COVID is an attack of your respiratory system.
So, throughout the years, I've been together with my wife around the same time as Art and yourself. And, spouses tell each other they're not feeling well, your stomach, your head. But did something seem out of the ordinary where it warranted a trip to the hospital? What made that decision?
Um, the entire week was just a common cold. I never thought it was anything worse. It wasn't until Friday night where I saw like his color had changed. He was just like really, really sick. Like a cold will kind of last about 3 to 4 days, maybe five, and then you'd start to kind of subside a bit, but he just kept getting worse and worse. And then Saturday morning is when I'm like, dude, you look not well. Like, I really got to take you to the hospital. Let's just get it checked out, make sure that everything is okay, and go from there. And by that time, the kids, like I said, and I had the cold, just feeling like really awful, but not as bad as Art was. And then it would, like I said, it wasn't until Saturday morning where I said, I drove him to the hospital and said, you know what, just go get yourself checked out. I'll come back and get you because they weren't allowing us to go into the hospital during that time, right? If the person understood the language, was able to communicate. They basically went in by themselves, right? So obviously Art was one of those. And little did I know that that would be the last time I saw him for 30 days.
So I'm a sick guy getting into the emergency area, and I'm by myself. And this is where I um, I was waiting in the triage, they call it there,
Mhm.
to get signed in. And that's where it all started. I dropped right in the triage. I actually
What?
dropped on the floor. And that was the last thing I remember.
Mhm.
And it was the last time I would see Jenny in 30 days.
So describe that feeling to me, because this was COVID lockdown time, I believe. So this is what you're saying. And we weren't allowed to be in the presence of our loved ones if they had to go to emergency and things like that. So how did that feel to you being separated at that time?
It was an awful feeling because it's the time when your loved ones need you most and you can't even be there for them. We're lucky that in this day and age, technology is something that we really rely on. So we had a lot of FaceTime, a lot of phone calls. But like I said, he basically wanted to be sleeping most of the time. So even when we were FaceTiming, he was like sleeping, tired. And they were just going through the preliminaries to get him checked out at that time to make sure, like, what is this thing? But I believe that Art did say that the person in triage in the front basically took a look at him and knew exactly what he had because he basically just dropped, right? So,
Wow. So now he had to be admitted, of course. And I don't know the procedures. Like, was there any emergency procedures before they get him into that room? Like in triage, I guess that's where they check you out. When did you get communication of what was going on, like moment by moment? Like, were you in communication with the doctors or the nurses?
not when he was an emergency.
Wow.
And yeah, so during emergency time, it was only through Art when what they were saying to him. And he said that they were doing a test to see whether or not it was COVID. It was one of those quick tests, and that quick test did come back positive. So at that point, I kind of thought, oh my God, is it COVID? Do we all have COVID? And who knows like what the situation would be.
Mm.
And it was just very confusing, very, hard to digest. You always heard of this COVID and what was going on around the world, but you don't really internalize it until it actually hits you hard. And that's when it kind of hit me saying, wow, this is for real.
Yeah, because we're talking 2021. COVID hit us. Of course, it hit us in 2019. We know it was here all this time, but
Right,
it was that March date in 2020 where it was lockdown, work from
right.
home restrictions. But you're even talking like now a year later, and
Yeah.
then this happened. So that's crazy to hear. Now, let me know, what was his status though? Because someone had to tell you what was going on, because I heard that there was something about inducing into a coma. Like, what was that like now?
So he was there on Saturday. They confirmed it was COVID.
Hmm.
He was admitted into like a secluded room to kind of figure things out. He was put on IV, was put on oxygen because at that point it wasn't until Sunday where he started to feel more chest pain, he said, and he just couldn't breathe. Not that he couldn't breathe, he just felt more pressure on his chest. And, they gave him the oxygen. And then it wasn't until I received a 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. phone call Saturday night going into Sunday, where they said he's pretty bad. We're going to have to take him to ICU, give him high flow at that point. And, getting a call at that time in the morning, you kind of feel like, wow, what just happened here? How did it go from a common cold to COVID to ICU? So it's just a lot to internalize and to take in at that time. And we were on the phone till I would have to say maybe from 2 a.m. in the morning to I would have to say 7, where we would just kind of talk back and forth. And then we ended up both falling asleep.
Mhm.
And when I woke up that morning, um, I called him back and he's like, Jen, I am having a hard time breathing. This was at 7. And I got off the phone with him. I said, okay, let's figure out what they're going to do. Still, I had no communications directly from the hospital at that point. It was just through Art.
Mhm.
It wasn't until 10 a.m. when I got the actual call from the hospital saying, we're going to have to intubate him because he's getting worse and worse. And, obviously I'm freaking out at that point, saying, no, you're not going to do that. There's no way. Because, you hear all these horror stories about intubation and stuff. And I said, put my husband on the phone. I need to speak to him right now.
When you're in a hospital and uh, your wife gets a phone call saying that your husband has to be intubated,
Yeah.
um, she didn't take that very well. She goes, "Can I come and see him? I need to come and see him." They said, "No, you're not allowed in." Um, what happens is when you're in that state, I guess I was. I really don't know if I was on IVs at that time. At
Mhm.
that time, I don't know if I was on IVs, but I was. I don't remember anything in the
Mhm.
sense that Jenny said, your friends were FaceTiming you, like they're on your phone, they were calling you and videotaping you and saying, "Hey, Art, we're here." I don't remember any of my friends calling me. I don't remember any of them calling out. But they tell me today, Art, I spoke to you that day, the day before you went into a coma.
Mhm.
Uh,
And, we were both crying and, Art, do you really need this? Do you want to do this? Like, what should we do? He wasn't sure. He's like, I had no idea what to do, Jen. I said, listen, what you're going to do is you're going to pray because they basically said with intubation, he had a 50-50 chance of survival. Without it, he was going to die because his oxygen levels had dropped so much. And at that point, it's like sink or swim, right? You're like, what choice do I really have? And we kind of made a decision to say, okay, let's give it a shot, pray until your eyes close, and, God will give you strength and we'll get over it. Everything will be fine. And, I remember feeling so empty inside, so helpless, not being able to do anything for him. All this is all through FaceTime. So you can imagine how difficult it is on our end trying to navigate through this whole system online. And it was just an awful feeling. And you know the doctors basically said this is the choice we had that time. So
This is Jenny. Jenny. Um, were you open with your kids at the time? Or did you try and shelter them from the news, or did you consult with your family, or was it just between you and Art?
It was at that time, it was with Art, but I did tell the kids that, Dad's not doing well. He's because they had seen him. We were FaceTiming at the time. They were asking him, how you feeling, this and that. But I didn't really tell them that he was intubated until I needed a couple days to kind of internalize it. And it wasn't until 2 days later where I said, you know what, Daddy is sleeping right now. And my older one, who kind of basically understood more, is where I said, they had to put him into a coma and stuff. So, the kids didn't take it too well, and they were like adamant. Well, why can't we see him? Why can't we see him? The staff was amazing at Markham Stouffville Hospital where he was at. An hour after he was intubated, they called me back to tell me like the status of how he was and how did it all go, because it's a very risky procedure to be able to be intubated and put on a ventilator. Lots of things can go wrong. So they were good with giving me the information, but it wasn't until 4:30 that same day where they gave me an opportunity to see him FaceTime and go through like this is what all these, because he had lines everywhere and all this machinery all over him. So just to kind of explain what was going on, I think that was the devastating part, to see him initially in the state of mind where he looked so like hopeless. And it was a difficult time. That was hard. But I didn't want to show my kids that. I just kind of wanted them to feel, he's going to get better. He's going to be okay. And then like I said, a few days later is when I said, okay, maybe we should kind of let them see what dad looks like. And it was a tough time, I tell you.
Where did you draw strength? Where did you draw strength from? Because just hearing you speak about this, like I can imagine going through this. We've all been through these kind of, no, I don't know if everyone, but I've been through it with family members. I watched my father-in-law pass away in front of me, and these things are hard to see. But where did you draw strength from?
I think what made me strong is my prayer and my belief in God and my children, to say that, things are going to go well. You got to have a positive attitude,
Mm.
and just, don't let these negative situations pull you down. That's when you need the most strength, and that's you pull it out of somewhere. Honestly, I'm not a strong person, Peter, at all. I'm the first one to kind of break down, but I don't know where this strength came from. Like, God is great, and He gave me this power to just, do what I had to do for my family, be the voice for my husband. It just came out of nowhere. I'll be honest with you. It really did.
Okay, so 30 days from when he got admitted till, I guess, coming out of recovery. So now take me through that time. How did you communicate with the medical team? Like from when he got intubated, now he's in coma. What was that like, that period like? Because I'm sure there was a time where you had to make a decision. I don't know if that came from the doctors, but walk me through that 30-day period of when Art wasn't alert.
So like I said, when you're in critical ICU, he wasn't just in ICU, he was in critical ICU. So you have basically one-on-one nurse with your patient. Sometimes there's two nurses on one patient, depending on the situation and what they're going through. So I knew basically their schedule from, rounds changed at 7 a.m. in the morning. So I always would call at 5:30 in the morning, just to see like how was the night. I spoke to them at 1 in the morning before I would go to bed, and then 5 a.m. would be my call. From 7 till 9 were rounds, so I never really bothered them during that time. And then by 10:30, 11, I would always get a call from a doctor, whoever was on call, and they would give me kind of an update of what's going on, and what's the next treatment, or how are we going to move on. That was kind of, a bit of a relief to have somebody, that support line, kind of calling me every single day to give me an update. And then I would call like multiple times throughout the day, just to kind of make sure what was going on. Um, I would have to say the worst week was the second week. And because, you always feel, how long is he going to be on there? Is this intubation 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Like, we didn't know. You don't know how long it's going to be. And I think that was the most frustrating part. But I would have to say the worst week was the second week, when he developed a secondary pneumonia from the ventilator. And that kind of, took a turn for the worst, where they were saying to me that, it doesn't look good. He probably might go from a collapsed lung. He might have a heart attack. He might, and, to be prepared for something like that. And then, even times where they would say it could come to a point where we're going to turn off treatment. And when I heard that, Peter, I was like, what? There's no way that that's happening. And I think that was the turning point um, of my life at that stage, where I don't know, from maybe before I was a little bit more accepting, and, kind of listened to the medical team, just like as to what they were saying. And I think at that point, when you hear those words, you kind of like, I don't know, something kicks in and you become their fight person. And I had to be his voice. I'm the one that was on top of everything. I never took no for an answer. I don't know. Thinking back now, I don't know if I was a really nice person at that time. When you hear those words, it's really not pleasant. And so that part I think was a difficult time for me. And just like I said, I had to do what I had to do to make sure that my husband was going to make sure that he survived. And I did what I did what
Wow.
I had to do.
Wow. You know, Art told me some kind words about you and the love that he has for you, and I believe you have for him. It's just amazing. You would want that champion in your corner, and you were his champion in that time. So
Yeah,
when we talked before we scheduled the podcast, we talked a couple months ago, and you mentioned it here about the higher power. And I guess that was a big thing for you too, where you put your faith in God.
I did. Yeah. Because at that point you feel helpless. You feel like, what more can I do? And I just turned to the higher power. I turned to my prayer. I turned to my belief. I turned to my support system. And I'm so lucky that I have such a close-knit family who was there by my side doing whatever they needed to do to make sure that my family and I get through this. It was a tough time.
So thanks for sharing that. Was there a particular conversation though? So you walked me through what they were saying and it was a 50-50. Was there a particular conversation where they were saying this is what we recommend, or was this decision always up to you? Because there's
No,
a lot of
they,
stories I heard where they're just pulling plugs on people after
yeah,
you have the ventilator and they're like, oh, it's hopeless. So that's what I was hearing in COVID time on the news all the
yeah,
time. So
yeah.
take me through that now.
So that was a similar situation with Arthur. So they had done some x-rays and his entire lungs looked white, which means they were really, really sick at that time. And they basically said to me, he doesn't have a fighting chance. The best thing to do is to let him go with dignity and to let him, not suffer anymore the way he is suffering. And I said, there's no way, Peter. I don't know what it was. I turned into a very determined person to say there's no way, this man is not going to die. You guys have a duty of care to make sure that he makes it. He's got a family, he's got children, he's too young to die. I'm telling you, I was tough, really tough with the medical system to ensure that he makes it. In fact, there was a time where 6 months after we went back to the hospital to see the medical team that took care of him, because obviously he had no idea who these people were in ICU. And Dr. Dubé, who intubated him and extubated him, actually said to Art, there was a point during the time that you were here that I didn't really like your wife that much. Yeah, I really didn't like her that much. But I'll tell you one thing. The only reason you're here today is because of the tough lady that she is. And I'm telling you, I was tough because I didn't take no for an answer. My husband was not a statistic. I didn't care what the results were. They had a duty to make sure that he was going to be okay, and I was going to stand behind him 100%. I was his voice. I was his fighter. I was the one that was there to make sure that he was good. Excuse me, that he was going to make it.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah,
Uh,
he mentioned that to me too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
I gotta shout out the staff at the hospital too.
Yeah.
They do good work too. Now, what about now coming out now? Recovery. When did Art started showing signs of recovering? How was that like now?
So it wasn't until the week before he was coming off the ventilator when He would show a few signs of, say, his oxygen levels were good. And what they do is they try to turn off the ventilator in stages to see if he's able to breathe on his own. And again, and from the time of doing that till the time of coming off the ventilator, it could be 1 to 2 weeks. And there could be like 2 steps forward and 10 step back sometimes, because once they start to turn things off, there could be more problems where he can't breathe, and now we got to turn it back up. So it was just kind of like a roller coaster, and it was up and down, up and down. And then that part was pretty frustrating, because at that point, when you hear the words, oh, it looks like we might be able to kind of start shutting things off and let him kind of, weed him off the ventilator, you feel so much relief, and you feel like a sense of hope. And that kind of the setbacks is what it teeter totters back and forth and makes that a little bit difficult. But during that time, once they started to shut things off, there were days where they would have to put it up a little bit and then reduce, but we started to see the trajectory was actually really good, where he just started to accept the breathing on his own. They were able to turn off the sedations. He was on 4 different sedations, and to kind of keep him completely paralyzed so the machine can do all the work. And during that time, when you start to shut off the sedations, is when there's more movement in, like, say, for instance, a twitch or whatever. And that made me so excited when I saw, like, his leg move, or like a finger or something. I'm like, oh my God, we're getting somewhere here. This is great. So you start to feel a sense of, like, this fight is worth it. There's no, I'm so glad that I spoke the way I did, and I did whatever I had to do for him. And, slowly, they were able to shut everything off. And I remember the Thanksgiving Day is when they took the ventilator out, and he was able to breathe for the first time. I've got goosebumps just saying that. And so they shut everything off. They took the ventilator off, and I couldn't get to that hospital fast enough.
I want you to tell me about when you first were alert now. So you come out of the coma and now you're awake, and what are you thinking?
So some wild stories that I've been told is, even when I woke up, I wasn't coherent. My eyes were open, but I wasn't there. My eyes wouldn't leave Jenny. At this point, Jenny was in the hospital. This was the last few days of the me waking up. And I woke up, and they said that, you know what, your eyes would never leave Jenny. If Jenny would walk out the room, my eyes would follow her out the room, because I couldn't move. Um, when you're in a coma for 30 days, there's something called muscle atrophy,
Yeah.
where your muscles haven't moved in 30 days. And also, in when you're in a coma, and again, I do want to stress, or not stress, I want to say, it wasn't induced coma. They had put me in that coma, right? So there's things they do to keep you alive. There's something called the prone position, where they actually have to flip your body. So if you're on your back, they got to flip you on your stomach. And supposedly you can breathe better when you're on your stomach. So they had to keep on flipping me over and over. Um, and what happened is, you're in a coma where I can't control my movement of my body at this point. So the nerves that my body was sitting on my arm, for example, with the muscle atrophy, I caused permanent nerve damage in my left side of my body. Um, that's yeah, there was just so much that happened in that hospital. Jenny was there every day after that. There was a point where Jenny was told, and again, this is stuff that I heard. I wasn't obviously there to hear it. When the doctor said, we're got to pull the plug on Art. He's not going to make it. And she fought. She fought to keep us going.
Art, I gotta ask you are you okay sharing this right now? Because I'm feeling the emotions now, and I feel it coming from you. I don't know if you've told this story in this kind of format.
I haven't. This is the first time it's been said like this. Obviously, I've told my friends and family how I felt and all that, and
Mm,
even sitting around Thanksgiving dinner. I don't know if I've ever told you this in the past, but I actually woke up out of the coma on Thanksgiving Day. So Thanksgiving dinner is a big day for us.
yeah.
Um, and then it still hits hard when they're sitting at the Thanksgiving table, and I tell my family, I don't want to play this game. They play a game where we go around person to person and say what we're thankful for.
Mm.
And I say to them, I don't want to play this game anymore. I don't like this game, but it's part of our family tradition. It's what we do.
They said to me, this is the first time he's actually breathing. I don't even remember hearing words of like people talking to me. I just bolted right to his room just to kind of see him. Okay, his body didn't look, he wasn't up talking or anything like that, but at least I saw him without all the machinery all over his body, which was a great feeling.
Wow.
Yeah. I
You
think the only thing I remember though,
Mhm.
Peter, is thinking to myself, I'm so glad he is where he is. I'll deal with everything afterwards. I don't care as long as he's alive. But the one thing that went through my mind is I hope he remembers the kids and I. That's the only thing that went through my mind. Because you hear a lot of things, right?
Wow.
With losing memory and a lot of stuff when you're on a ventilator. So I think that kind of was something that went through my mind.
Wow, it's crazy that you say that. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
You tell this in such great detail. I love how you're sharing the
Mhm.
gaps, the what Arthur didn't know happened. Um, Now, what were some of the challenges? Do you remember when Art first looked at you? But I want to know some of the challenge post coma. Um, so in the initial stages of recovery. But do you remember when you first had eye contact with Arthur?
I did. It was probably about 3 to 4 days after the ventilator was taken off. And because, in order for you to enter into the room where they are full PP, obviously, and I'll never forget this vision that I have of him. I'm standing right outside the room and putting on my PP and talking to his nurse just to kind of get an update. He had this glare on his eye. He was like so laser focused on me and looking at me through the window. I mean, it was like I'm thinking he was thinking at the time, what are you doing standing out there and you're not in here with me? Can't you see me looking at you? And that was a aha moment for me. It was the one most wonderful feeling because now I feel, he's looking at me, he knows who I am. There wasn't much speech at that time because, like I said, when you come off the ventilator and after so long, you lose a lot of stuff, muscle mass, you
Mm.
lose your speech, your sense of like thought is not 100% there. There's lots of stuff that goes on, the aftermath that you got to deal with when you're on a ventilator. So, and he was like everything. He had to learn to feed himself and talk and walk and everything from the beginning, like a newborn baby. So it was hard to see that.
Wow. So thanks for sharing that too. And so the recovery, rehabilitation, did you play a part in that too? Because I believe he had to get transferred to another
Yeah.
facility, rehabilitation, I believe. But did you play a part in that too at the facility? Because at home you probably had to continue things, but
Yeah.
sometimes I think they want the spouse to help out and things like that. But walk me
Yeah.
through that too.
Recovery was all done in the hospital.
Mhm.
Um, I was paralyzed from the neck down. I couldn't move anything from the neck down. I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to talk. Um, they were doing physiotherapy, was doing exercises with me that to you and I probably doesn't make sense,
Mhm.
but now it all makes sense when they're telling you to just exercise your arm going like this. What they're doing is they're trying to teach you how to feed yourself again because I couldn't feed myself.
Mhm.
Um, The nurses, the nurses in the hospital were amazing. Um, I wish I knew all their names.
Hmm.
But there's just one nurse who just stands out, and we had some serious conversations with this guy. He was an amazing, amazing person.
Hmm.
He actually uh, was from, I believe he was from Iran, and he was talking to me, just talking, saying, and I go, why do you do this job? And this is why he's feeding me. He's feeding me now. Like I couldn't even. I'm thinking, well, this guy's actually taking his time to feed me.
Hmm.
And he goes, you know what? Um, he was a scholar back home. He was
Hmm.
a scholar. Like he had education, high education. But when he came to this country, his whole mentality changed. Says, I want to help people. And I said, wow, that's pretty hard. Like that's that hit hard. And he's there feeding me. He goes, Art, don't worry, you're gonna get out of this. Um, and he was my nurse for I want to say maybe 2 weeks. I want to say 2 weeks. We spent every day together, and his stories were just worth listening to all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one day I didn't get to say bye to the guy, and his name is Koresh. If he ever hears this, I'll never forget that name, Koresh. He I never got to say bye to the guy, and what happened is they shipped me off from Markham Stouffville Hospital. I ended up in Uxbridge, in
Oh.
a rehab hospital in Uxbridge.
Hmm.
Um, that's where I was going to get the most, I guess, rehabilitation out of the whole thing. So now I'm in Uxbridge, and if you know Uxbridge, it's a farm town.
Hmm.
So a lot of farmers. I was probably the youngest guy in there as a patient. So, but we got to make some friends in there too. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So he was transferred to the Uxbridge Hospital, which is a division of the Markham Stouffville and Oak Valley Health division. So he was there for therapy. And he had an occupational therapy, physiotherapy. This was every single day, people trying to help him. And it was, certain times a day because, he's so exhausted after just a little bit of time. And then that's when I would kick in. So the therapist would come with him during the day because I won't, like I said, I couldn't show up until after 1 o'clock to the hospital. And afterwards, when we were together, I'm like, okay, you know what? We got to keep doing this. And I would continue to do exactly what the therapists had done for him during the day.
Hmm.
And so I kind of felt like he got like a double whammy. So he was able to get therapy from them. And then I continued to do what I got to do. I was determined, Peter, to make sure that he was going to be okay. He was going to, start walking and talking and doing everything again from the beginning. But like I said to you, I didn't care as long as he was at home. He could have been in a wheelchair. I didn't care. As long as he was alive and at home, I would have dealt with everything else. But it was amazing how your muscles have a great memory and remember how to start working again. It wasn't easy, but he did a great job. And they gave him a 3-month period to do that, to see where we'd get up. He accomplished everything in 2 months and came home a month earlier. That's how determined he was to get out of there.
How long did it take for you to start walking again and start talking again?
So it was tough. The first few weeks inside the Uxbridge Hospital, um, I was still wasn't walking, right? I was still just getting up off the side of the bed. They would exercise my legs manually on their own sort of thing. And then there was a time where they would wheelchair me into a gym, and I was supposed to do maybe 10 minutes on a treadmill or 10 minutes on a bike. And I said, no, I want to do this. I want to do this longer. I want to get out of here.
Hmm.
And I'll never forget this nurse. Again, I wish I knew her name. I told her, I told her, I'm going to be home for Christmas. And she goes, I know you will. And they didn't think. They thought I was going to be in there till like March, April of next year, the following year.
Hmm.
But I said to them, I'm out of here. I'm not going to spend Christmas in here.
Yeah.
And I worked really hard. I worked hard in that gym. Uh, and if Jenny hears this part of my podcast, she knows I don't work out,
Yeah.
and she knows I don't. So for me to say that I worked out hard in that gym, I really did. I wanted to get out of there.
What's probably one of the most memorable moments that you have that you maybe didn't share with me now? Do you remember anything that stood out of that 30-day period or even after?
I think the most touching moment for me was when he was at Uxbridge Hospital, where not a lot of people can go in. So there was a restriction. The days that which I was there all the time, you're only allowed one visitor per day. So there were times where, his brother wanted to go see him, like his business partner wanted to go see him. So I would forfeit my visit so that they can go on those days, right? And again, it was adult. And the one thing I remember was this wonderful lady who took care of the scheduling and stuff. And Art said to her, I just want to see my kids. I haven't seen my kids in like 2 months. Is there any way that I can, have them come in? And she arranged something on the side and said, you know what, we're going to allow the kids to come in. You're going to come back through this, this elevator in the back from the storage. And we're going to come out and I'm going to put you guys in a room and you guys can spend some time together. And I thought that was the most amazing thing that someone can do for my family, because, you miss that family time, you miss that together. My house was empty, Peter. It didn't matter. My kids were here. It was great and everything. But when you don't have your loved one person missing from your house, it doesn't feel homely anymore. And that for me was a wonderful moment that we were able to sit together and the boys were just, talking about like regular things like football and basketball and what's going on in school and, my son in karate and, just like everyday stuff that you take for granted when you're at home. So, you walk in, hey, how was school today? How was, and you didn't get that. And for her to arrange something like that was absolutely wonderful for us. So I was very grateful.
That must have been a special moment. You remember that moment from the tears
Like it was
must have been
yesterday.
flowing. You know what I mean?
Right. You gotta keep strong. You gotta keep strong in front of these kids too, right? You gotta show them that you're a strong person.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they're gonna break. So it's tough thinking about it, but we did it. They were tough taking care of their mom, and I was just very grateful for that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, thank God for Zoom because I did have Zoom breakfast with them every single morning.
Yeah.
Jenny,
Oh,
Jenny made
okay.
sure of that. So I had Zoom breakfast every morning. But the thing was, I couldn't even hold up my iPad at that time, where nurses would actually hold up the iPad for me and make sure I had my breakfast with them.
Oh, amazing. Oh, so good. You got to see them at least, and then you saw them
Yeah.
in person. Okay. Yeah, that's important for kids. Like I can't imagine not seeing my dad or my mom when I'm that
Yeah.
young and you don't know what's going on. So that was amazing for them. So your boys been through a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. Shout out their names again.
George and Christian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
George and
they're
Christian.
wonderful. They're wonderful. Yeah, they're great. And, they really value family time. They've been through a lot, so they kind of see things in a different perspective now. And, we try to do things as much as we can with the family because, we almost had a real scare in here. So it's
Mm,
good to just kind of, have these thoughts in the back of your mind and how to live your life. That's for sure.
mm. You said you had breakfast with someone famous when you're out of the coma, and I believe you're probably at Uxbridge Hospital. Who'd you have breakfast with over Zoom?
It was a Zoom call. I didn't have it
Yeah.
was over thing, but a good friend of mine in the mortgage industry. Um, his name is Rainy Ibrahim. He actually set me up to have a Zoom call with Wayne Gretzky, which we all know who Wayne Gretzky is. Um, Ricky Henderson, great baseball player.
Oh, wow. Holy
But
cow.
if you know who Art is, and I'm a big basketball fan, uh, but I'm a extremely big Boston Celtics fan. So when he said Kevin McHale will be on the call as well, uh, I was just in awe. You know what I mean? So I really had a good time with that. Uh, it was a call that, again, things you never forget. You won't forget that, right?
Wow. Art, I didn't know this. I was leading to something else. You didn't tell me
Oh,
about this.
what?
You had You had breakfast with the chef. We're talking about hip hop. You had breakfast
Oh,
with
with the Wu-Tang.
yes. So you just added something to.
Oh,
I didn't even know what you're just talking about there with Gretzky and Dederson.
yeah. Oh, again, thanks to
Mhm.
Rami Ibrahim from TD Mortgages. He set us up. That was a that was a dinner with the chef. That was
Yo.
a dinner. Um, Rami had shipped off dinners to everyone's home,
Mhm.
and we had dinners served at our own homes. And then we got to spend time with the chef on Zoom. And if
Yeah.
you're a Wu-Tang, if you're a Wu-Tang fan, that's a big thing, a big thing to have it with the chef there for sure.
Wu Tang. Yeah, that was good. Wow. So you just I think everything's a blessing. Everything the woo.
The Wu.
All right. So now, oh, this has been amazing. What I want you to do now is share some words of wisdom or support, whatever you can do for someone that's going through something like this with a loved one, like a similar health crisis. How do they stay strong?
Yeah. I'm going to be really nice about this, Peter.
Mhm.
You have to be their voice. You cannot take no for an answer. You cannot allow them to be a statistics. You have to fight for them. And sometimes you got to go above and beyond, and you got to go against the grains to be able to be their voice, right? Because in situations like that, they can't make decisions, they can't do anything. So you got to be the one that's there. You got to give them that fighting chance, and you got to be tough. And I'm going to tell you, it was a really tough time to be able to navigate through this type of thing happening to us. But you're not going to do it if you're going to cave in and not be strong. And you get your strength from somewhere. Like I said, I'm not a strong person, but I did get my strength, and you got to be the voice. Yeah. Listen to Dr. Dubé.
Yeah.
She's one tough lady.
Yeah,
This is your story is amazing. One thing I want to ask you, I'm gonna get into your book, man. Do you have your book there, Art?
I
So what?
do. I
Yeah,
do.
yes. Life happens. I want to talk about that before we end it off. But the last question I probably want to ask you, has your perspective changed towards life and health since the incident?
Well, yeah, you have to expect it to change drastically when things like this happen. Um, I take life more serious. You got to enjoy it more. You don't know when that end is, so enjoy it right to the end. Um, First and foremost, you realize family is everything. Family is everything. They're by your side. Um, Quick story is I was in a coma, and my whole family was outside that hospital window.
Mhm.
Uh, I, I wish I could wave. I wish I could wave to them, right? But
Mhm.
um, so yeah, you really you put things into perspective. Health is everything. You got to take care of yourself, or else you're not gonna do well. Um, this is where you stay close to your family, and you're in good hands if you can do that.
I I I thought I heard it all. I've interviewed so many people, and then I have personal stories in my life. This story is touching to me, man, and I'm glad I was the one that was able to share it because now you're gonna have this um as a memory. You know what I mean? To share with
Sure.
anyone. Amazing. So, Art, in part one of our podcast, you were talking about your book, Life Happens. I want you to expand on it now because we were talking about chapter 1 to 4, and then we were saying chapter 5, as we know, this is what it's about. So tell me about your book again. Let the audience know.
So Jenny and I, we always, as I got back on my feet and back in business again, um, people always ask, uh, "Hey Art, tell us about your story. What happened? Where did you go in your coma? Who did you see in your coma?" Uh, I didn't see anybody is all I can say to them, right? But they want to know the whole story. And Jenny put it forward. She said, Art, let's write a book. Um, a book would be great if everybody, could read it and understand what everything my family and I did go through. Um, uh, it was uh, it was just something that I said to Jenny. It was my idea where I said to Jen, I go, there's only so much of a book that we can talk about my story. Why don't we add some of our business into the story that actually helped us survive?
Mm,
Where I talk about real estate itself, because real estate did help us in the sense that, like I mentioned earlier, it was my busiest month, September. It was a crazy month of real estate where I had plenty of deals closing, where I knew that there was, the going into the holiday season, it was going to be a good, the last trimester of the year, let's say. And I said, we're going to be okay. Um, and then there's things in the book that we talk about, uh, how to invest in investment properties, which we have an investment property that took care of us a little bit. Um, there's ways of refinancing your home, pulling some money out, which, everyone says, oh, that's not the thing that we're taught when we're young. We're taught to pay off our mortgages.
mhm,
But when times of need, you got to refinance your house. You need that money just to survive. You're going to do it.
mhm.
So we talk about refinancing. We have mortgage professionals behind us that can help you with stuff like that. Um, both Jenny and I are in the real estate game where we help people purchase their investment properties. We guide them in the right direction. So the beginning of the book talks about real estate in that sense, on how important it is to invest in yourself, for you and your family. Um, we took we took the real estate part of it, and then we talk about how COVID COVID hit me and how we survived because of the first part of that book.
Mm,
So I hope people that read it understand that you do got to prepare for the unexpected.
mm. So true. Thanks for sharing that. And let people know where they can get it, because I was mentioning to you, this is going to be my Christmas vacation reading. When this episode drops, it's probably going to be around that time too, you know? Where can they
Yeah,
find it?
buildwithrealestate.com. Buildwithrealestate.com. You can purchase it on there. It takes you right to the Amazon site. Um, if you go to Amazon, just punch up Arthur Sercan, Life Happens. You'll also find it there. And I appreciate every single person out there that's supported us in that sense.
Amazing. You are a strong person. It's always in you. It just came out at this moment, telling you. There's one thing that you did together. I'm sure you have your book there too. So a book was written. Art already shared it, but do you want to say anything about this book that I even purchased as well? I'm reading now.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate you doing that. Yes, we were able to write our book. Basically, what I said to myself during that week where he was really harsh and I was praying so hard. I said, God, if you make sure, please make him survive. If you make sure he makes it, I will tell his story to the whole world, to shed like hope and belief and the strength that somebody needs to go through something like this. And we did. We wrote this book and to shed strength and hope. And it's got a little bit of real estate in it too, and how real estate helped us kind of navigate through this time where we couldn't work. And it's a very touching story. It was a book to write, I'll tell you, because there were moments where the thing I didn't tell you is I kept a journal during the time that he was going through, because I wanted to know what medications he was on. And, I'm the kind of person where I research everything. So I would kind of write these down and I would research what are some downfalls to this medication and stuff. I know it's kind of crazy, right? YouTube and all this stuff, but I did. And when I opened it up, because I had to refer back to notes as to what days were going on so I can get the chronological order correct, I couldn't believe I went through some of this stuff. It was like, wow, I would get migraines while I was writing. And I had to close the book saying, this is insane. I can't believe somebody can go through something like this and come back strong on the other end. So, yeah, it's quite rewarding.
last thing I want you to do, Art, first of all, thanks for sharing your story. This is amazing. Um, I hope that people who listen or watch get inspiration, draw inspiration from it. I wanted to know if you can leave a message for Jenny on this podcast and what it meant to you to have her by your side.
Is this with crying or without crying? This is a tough one.
Whatever
Listen,
flows.
Jenny's J- uh, I'm here today because of Jenny. There was a time when I went back to the hospital to say thank you to everyone, to the nurses that I've never met before, but they were on me every day. I went back, and one of the doctors, Doctor Dubé from Markham Stouffville Hospital, he's the one that intubated me and extubated me. He came up to me and he goes, Arthur, we're not going to lie to you. Your wife wasn't well liked in the hospital at one point. Uh, but he goes, I'm going to tell you this. The only reason you're here today is because of your wife, Jenny. Coming from a doctor, that's a big thing.
Wow.
So I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have her on my side. Uh, we're team players together. She's my partner. She's my partner till I die.
Beautiful. Oh my God. All right, Art. Oh man, this is amazing. This is the final episode of Real Talk with Star Scorpio season 8. This has been a great year for my podcast. And to have you and Jenny share this story, it it just tops everything off and it just makes you want to keep pushing. Say a few words about Art.
Okay, all right. So I speak directly to him. So you beat the odds and defied the challenges that life threw at you with your unwavering hope, unshakable belief, and indomitable determination. You not only survived, but thrived and have become an inspiration for others who face obstacles in life as well. A true example of a warrior. The boys and I are so grateful to have you here so that we can continue to make wonderful memories together.
Bam. Amazing.
Mm,
Amazing. Thank you, Jenny. Jenny, this has been
thank you.
amazing. Now, before we wrap it up, oh man, I'm gonna ask you the real talk question. Well, you're gonna choose which one you want to answer. So, do
Okay.
you want me to read out the Blue Jays or the Raptors?
Raptors.
What is one of the most memorable moments of your life?
Most memorable moments of my life. Obviously, having my children is number one. And to have my husband walk through that door after not being home for 3 months. Yeah, it was the best feeling in the world.
Amazing. All right. This has been great, Jenny. Thank you for coming out today. What we're gonna do now is you probably know this. I donate to a charity after every episode. And this is the last episode of season 8. This has been a great episode. I can't wait to edit this. Um, the 3 charities that I'm donating to for season 8 are Claws, Kawartha Lakes Animal Wellness Society, the Fundraiser Warriors, as you see the shirt, and Make-A-Wish Foundation. So, but by my hands, which one do you want me to pop so I can see who I'm donating to? The left, the middle, or the right?
Can we donate to one of the foundations that we are donating our books to? Are we able to do that?
Of course, of
Can
course.
we do that? Okay.
I've done double donations all the time. So
Right?
I'm gonna donate to my cause, and then after you tell me
Okay.
who else we're gonna donate to.
Okay. Let's do the middle.
Are you serious? Oh, there you are. All right. Season 8, last episode, 2023. Star Scorpio will be donating to Happened to me a few times.
Of course.
Be donating to, oh, wow. You can't see it, but Claus,
Yeah,
Kawartha Lakes Animal Wellness Society.
awesome.
Beautiful.
That's
And
great.
now let me know who else I'll be donating to today.
Can we donate to the Markham Stouffville Hospital Foundation as well, please?
Shots fired. Yes,
Thank you.
of
Thank
course.
you.
Uh, just a little inside note. I think I told Art this when I had Linda Calianteris, artist.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually donated to that hospital at that time in her interview. But yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, she's a great artist, that girl.
All right, Jenny, any final words before we go?
Thank you so much, Peter, for giving me this opportunity and this platform to tell our story and to shed some hope and belief and determination because, some days people just kind of need that. And I appreciate you giving me that chance to share our story. Thank you, Peter.
And any final words for the audience, Art?
Listen, I need everybody to keep strong, invest in yourselves, and be well.
Guys. All right, Art, before I let you go, is there some magic you want? We know you're a magician. Is there anything you want to show me today? I don't know. Is there?
Peter, I thought you were never going to ask. I thought you were never going to ask that. Wow. Okay. Um, I'm gonna try to do this. I got to do this maybe a little standing up. I don't know if you can see this, but can you guys see the deck of cards? And
Yeah.
you see the nine of hearts?
Yeah.
Now, there's things called like the impossible, where impossible is putting in the nine of hearts, which is a little bit bigger than our box, right?
Okay.
It's a little bit bigger than our box, but I'm going to put this nine of hearts inside our box. Okay? Are you guys watching this? What happens here is we take the nine of hearts inside, inside the box. We're going to go like this. Are you watching? Here we go. Watch this. Watch this. Not only does the box disappear,
What?
but we just had real talk with Star Scorpio.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yo, Art, that was amazing. Oh, I didn't expect that. Yo, I love you, bro. This is amazing. And we still got to hook up for dinner.
Absolutely.
All right. All right. This has
Absolutely.
been great. That was a great trick. This is Real Talk with Star Scorpio. And me out.